And just a PSA for Tori who's on the phone. If you want to speak, press *9 and that'll let us know that you're trying to speak and we can unmute you. It's a little bit tricky on the phone, but it still works. It's good. And Tori's raising her hand. It worked.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me. I was going to mute you, or you can mute me most of the time unless you need me to pipe in because I'm in the car.
Okay. We'll probably just unmute you for the officer election, so you'll be able to jump in for that.
Okay, great.
So this is our second meeting by Zoom, I think, right? Am I?
Right, we had July with the big group.
Yeah.
So this is our second.
No, we did another one first.
But I mean, our individual second, and then we had the big one, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I would like to think that someday in the not too terribly distant future, we could do this again in person.
I would love to have us at the December one to have a little Christmas party would be great.
We'll deserve it.
I know. I don't know though, you know, it's kind of like, it's hard to picture. I mean, who'd have guessed? So should we go?
I think we can go ahead.
If I do disappear, it's because I have people doing some work on my house, and of course they just showed up. So if you don't see me, that's where I run to. Okay, we ready?
Yes, feel free whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Cynthia Neff, and I am happy to welcome everybody to our August CAC meeting. Do we have anybody on any outside people?
We have Sean Tubbs who's listening in.
Yay, Sean. He's not an outside person, really. Anyway, we are all here together, and we've done a sound check. We know that we have everything here. The call to order is, if you'll remember, Michaela did this the last time. She read this really boring statement. Well, I'm going to read the really boring statement now. The meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with Emergency Ordinance number 20-A6, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are electronically present at this meeting are, do I really have to name everybody?
Mm-hmm. Jump in and list them for you, Cynthia, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
So we have Cynthia Neff, Diantha McKeel, Jane Fogelman, Kim Swanson, Bill Love, Jacqueline Salazar, John Lewis, John Neal, Julian Bivens, Michelle Busby, Rosemary Miller, Yolanda Speed, and Tori, I am blanking on your last name. That is very awful of me. Victoria Tremaggio. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Tori.
Tori's easy. So the persons responsible for receiving public comment are the Places29 Hydraulic Community Advisory Committee and the Albemarle County Department of Community Development. The opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County calendar at https://www.albemarle.org/community/county-calendar and on the Albemarle County calendar. Allie will mention that Michaela Accardi and Amy Smith are also present for the meeting. Of course you are, and Carolyn Schaefer. So the first thing we need to do is approve the minutes. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Did you get them? They weren't terribly exciting. I hate to say that, but they weren't terribly excited. I'd love a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, that is very cool. This is so much easier when we're in person. Now, what we are going to do is elections. You know,
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but since we do have a new member, can we introduce ourselves? Do you mind?
No, I asked, we want to like recognize Jacqueline, so go ahead. You were going to introduce her?
Well, Jacqueline Salazar is our new board member. And would you like to just say a few words? But I want everybody to introduce themselves to you as well, so you know who's here. But we welcome you to our CAC. And I know you have some children in our school system, but would you like to just share a little bit about yourself? Whatever you'd like to share with us.
Hi again. My name is Jacqueline Salazar. Living here in Charlottesville like 20 years, and I have girls in high school, UA, and Arnold, I have everywhere, I think so. So yeah, I'm glad to be a part of for this, and I hope I can learn more because it's my first meeting. Anyway, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm Cynthia Neff. I've been doing CAC for a long time. Next to me is Michaela, who's from the staff. You want me to introduce everybody? Go ahead,
People
John,
can take
you're
turns.
next.
Yeah. John Neal, you're next.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
I was gonna take Cynthia up on her offer of introducing me, but I'm John Neal, and I've been on the CAC since it started, and it's been a great experience. So welcome.
John Lewis.
Hey, Jacqueline, welcome. John Lewis, I've been on a couple years now, and I live over sort of off the Barracks Road area in that neighborhood. And I've got 3 kids, and 2 of them have gone all the way from Greer through the high school and are now at college, and 1 is still in high school. So, and I try to represent the non-driving community as much as I can for biking and pedestrian activities.
And Jane?
I am Jane Porter Fogelman. I'm a native of Charlottesville. I was on the CAC when it was just one in the whole county. Cynthia and I were. And, and Kim. And we just segued right on over to hydraulic, and it's been great because it makes a great contribution to the community, I think. And we're glad to have you, and hope to see you in person sometime very soon.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Bill?
Hi, Jacqueline. Bill Love. I'm a relative newbie as well. This is my 3rd meeting. And I am from Pennsylvania County originally. I came here from New York City 9 years ago, and just got off 6 years on the county electoral board, and my term ended the end of February, just in time for the pandemic. So, anyway, welcome.
Timing is everything. Rosemary.
Hi, Jacqueline. I am also relatively new. My first meeting would have been in February, but I just had a baby in February also.
Right.
So I have some future Greer kids at home. And I live near Albemarle High School. So nice to meet you.
Okay, Michelle, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm Michelle Busby. I have been on CAC for about 4 years. I just came to the hydraulic CAC because I moved to Stonefield from Arden Place. And so,
cool. Julian?
I'm Julian Bivens, and I am sort of an ex-official member of the CAC by virtue of being the planning commissioner from Jack Jewett, being Diantha's planning commissioner, well, being all of our planning commissioner, but hers in particular. I welcome you. It's good to have you as part of our commission. And if there's anything that we can, or in particular I can be helpful as vis-a-vis planning, please feel free to reach out. Please do that.
Cool.
Kimberly. That goes to anybody also, but particularly the gentleman.
Hi, Jacqueline. Welcome to the committee. I'm Kim and have been on this this CAC since its previous iteration, and the group had me lead the charge on the Charlotte Humphreys Park revitalization, and so we're always looking for any other new member who wants to be active in the Charlotte Humphreys Park planning and kids, and it's been a great space, so welcome.
Yeah. And the lovely Yolanda Speed.
Hello, welcome Jacqueline. Also Michelle, welcome to the best CAC here in Albemarle County. I'm Yolanda Speed. I have been in Charlottesville since 2013. I came here from Tokyo, Japan, and I'm super excited to be working with these wonderful people, these wonderful citizens of the Albemarle County. My two youngest children graduated from Albemarle High School, so empty nester. Congratulations, Rosemary. So I've been on the CAC a few years now, so I'm excited and welcome.
And she's a teacher, hangs out with kids. Yeah. Amy? You want to pop up? We know you're there.
I am here. Amy Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Albemarle County Parks and Recreation, and happy to be here with you tonight.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. You're great. Carolyn?
Hi, I'm Carolyn Schaefer. I work closely with Julian. I'm the clerk for the Planning Commission and other boards, and I'm helping all the planners with their CAC meetings, just helping with facilitating the Zoom meetings.
Great, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lori, do you want me to introduce you, or do you want to?
You're unmuted, Tori, if you want to go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi. Welcome, Jacqueline. I am Tori Tremalio, and I am the property manager at Stonefield, and I enjoy working with the CAC as well. I'm going to go back on mute for a second because I'm driving back from Michigan.
I was also going to say on the agenda, everybody got a copy of the agenda. I think it's, you know, short and sweet, but I did want to add another subject in there that I hope everybody agrees with. Kim had mentioned some frustration, you know, with the schools and not being clear on, you know, being outdoors or indoors. And so that was, you know, going. So I had said, yes, we would really try to make sure we had a couple minutes to talk about that. But now we are going to do officers. I have to also tell you that Diantha and Michaela and I have spent some time trying to finally get our list together, you know, because what we found is that we did not have everybody on the list for this CAC, and we had people who shouldn't be on it anymore, and it was, you know, but anyway, Michaela has been really helpful trying to get all that together, and Diantha and I've spent some time, you know, checking and double checking names. So that's why when Kim told me that she didn't get the agenda, I'm like, holy crap, we just spent all this time.
I did. Sorry,
anyway,
I did. I got it.
So, so we're trying to do this. Now, the same thing about officers and trying to figure out when we time off. You know, I mean, that's one of the things that there is this thing. I am going to be out of time. I will no longer be eligible to be on the CAC in a year. So this is my notice, you know, that I will be on here. So we were gonna, so it's also time, it just coincidentally, to do officers. And so if somebody, you know, two things, somebody can nominate themselves, or a member of the team can nominate somebody. And we need a chair a vice chair and a secretary.
And
I wish we needed to.
let me just, can I just pop in one more time, and I
Yes,
didn't
dear.
keep interrupting, but we did, Vito Chetta, who is our current vice chair, contacted several of us and said he couldn't make the meeting tonight, but he did say that he was not, didn't want to be considered again for vice chair or a leadership position. I think he just wants to be a member of the board. He's not resigning from the board, but he did say he wasn't able to come tonight, but that he was stepping down as vice chair.
Okay, so do we have any nominations for or volunteers for treasurer?
Cynthia, I have a quick
Treasurer.
A treasurer? We have a treasurer?
Yeah, we have $1.95. Yes, dear.
I have a couple slides that I can just pop up and share with you all about the different positions and then the voting process, which is probably not surprising, but just so we're all on the same page.
Okay. Is it bureaucratic?
Well,
go ahead.
We are okay. It should be very quick though.
Okay, let's get it.
So here we are. These are the positions that Cynthia just mentioned: chair, vice chair, and secretary. I think it's probably most important to note that if the chair is absent, then the vice chair would preside at the meetings.
Kayla, we can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't see my screen?
Nope.
That's all right. You're reading it to us. Oh, there.
Is that better?
Perfect.
Sorry. Probably nothing surprising there. And the secretary would take notes at the meetings. We do have video recordings now while they're virtual, so that is a nice added thing that is available and less pressure on note taking. And then for voting, as Cynthia was mentioning, we'll go through each position, nominate, and those nominations don't require a second. But at some point after each position, we'll have to close nominations, and that requires a second and a vote. And then elections are done by voice vote. So what I'll do is unmute everybody and ask for those in favor, those against, and those abstaining. Those are the basics. Hopefully not too much bureaucracy.
So unfortunately, we don't have any money. We can't use a treasurer. So do we have any nominations or volunteers to nominate themselves to be secretaries? You know, we've had a little problem with this over time. Nobody wants to take minutes, even though it's gotten pretty easy. Do we have any volunteers or nominations? Hey.
Julian and I are out of this because we are ex officio, so we're leaving it up to you all.
So how about vice chair? I have a nominee. I would like to nominate Yolanda Speed. Perfect. Do we have any other people who are dying to be vice chair or know someone who does want to be vice chair? How about chair?
Are you still in the running?
One last year.
And I would nominate Cynthia.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check in. Our term limit is 2 terms for the chair. And how long have you been chair? Since I'm newer to the county.
More than 2 years.
Okay.
I think the bylaws say that their exceptions can be made, and I didn't see, when I looked and checked this, I didn't.
We were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I looked and didn't see any term limits for chair.
Only because I know how much everybody wants these roles, and so I thought, well, you know, I better make sure that I can be that A, that I don't time out, and that B, that you know, we haven't. So I know Diantha looked, and, you know,
Yeah.
I don't take it personally, but.
And it also said that exceptions could be made. So if no one, unless someone's fighting Cynthia, or unless there's a real.
Yeah, if somebody else wants it, you know.
Just saying. I have to get your copy of the bylaws, Michaela, because I'm looking at different ones. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Just wanted to double check.
Yeah, you'll be rid of me soon.
So I nominate Cynthia.
Okay. But it would be lovely if we had a secretary. It's really not that big. I mean, none of these roles are really, you know, that hard. The staff does, you know, a tremendous job in supporting us, and it's really not bad. Even Yolanda has been taking notes for the past year. How bad was it, Yolanda?
So Michaela, with the recording, help me with what exactly note-taking the secretary would do, because I know there is a recording. So what's the difference?
We have a recording, and we've been posting these to YouTube and putting them on the website in the minutes section. So the secretary, from my understanding, like wouldn't have to take written notes because we do have this virtual recording. But should we go back to an in-person meeting and not have a virtual recording, we would have to have some kind of written form of notes. And Yolanda has done this for us, and she would just summarize. It's not verbatim notes, so more just summaries of discussions and any like action taken by the CAC.
I can do that.
So let's unless somebody I see raise their hand in the next. Oh my God, Rosemary!
I'm happy to do that.
Yay, Rosemary! Woo!
Pay attention, you're gonna get in trouble, girl.
And she's a baby too, so. I'm chirping. Okay, so now that we have 3 candidates. Anybody else? The floor is still open. We can, you know, fight Rosemary for the secretarial slot.
I move that elections be closed, nominations be closed.
Do we have a second? John Lewis seconded. Okay, so Michaela, are you gonna do the vote now?
Okay, everybody should have seen something pop up on
the screen. Tony's here.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Asking them to be unmuted, and I'm unmuting Tori as well. So basically, if you all want to go ahead and for those in favor, you can just voice vote. Say if you're in favor.
Are we going to vote for the slate or for each one individually? Why don't we just do the slate?
Sure.
We're going to vote. Rosemary Miller has been nominated for the secretary of the CAC. Yolanda Speed has been nominated for the vice chair of the CAC, and I've been nominated for the chair of the CAC. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Yay. Are we done?
Yes, we're done.
Cool.
I'm going to hit mute everybody just to make things easier, but if you want to speak, just unmute yourself.
Okay, so
Seems to be stuck that way. I'm sorry. If you all can just individually mute yourselves, that didn't work the way that I wanted it to. Sorry, Cynthia.
So are we ready for Amy? Okay. Oh, there she is. You know, it's amazing how the pictures bounce around all the time. Anyway, Amy has been a tremendous friend of this CAC, as has the Park and Recs team. And Kim has done a great job of, you know, working with them. But I mean, the park is pretty amazing, and Amy was willing to come back and talk to us about, you know, there's some real progress being made. So Amy, take it away.
Sure, thanks. think Michaela's going to share some slides I put together real quick. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just an update. I think the last update, we had a written update maybe in June, and then before that, we were together back in January, February. It's hard to know with all the COVID things. But anyway, the newest improvements that we've done over the last 2 months have been, we've added 4 park benches, and we had our staff pick out spots, you know, along the trails to spread out the benches. So there's 4 benches. There's a natural play area where when they were sawing up trees, they put stumps together to have a natural play area, so there was no expense. The material was already there. And we worked on clearing the trail corridor to have like a 10-foot wide area. So when you're walking along the trails, the invasive weeds and things aren't growing and touching you. You have a nice clear path. And that's a real challenge, you know, to keep that, you know, year round for sure. But we're going to, you know, make a concerted effort to try to keep that wide. And hopefully one day we'll be able to have some community work days, because I know back in February we had talked about community work days, you know, like maybe once a quarter or twice a year. You know, have a community work day and then grill some hot dogs and, you know, some different things, and have, you know, a community day out there. Of course, all that's on hold for the moment, but hopefully by next spring, maybe we'll be able to do something like that. But in the time being, you know, our maintenance staff will continue to do the best they can, keeping the trails clear. And then we also had a boundary survey done around the park. And I know we did get a few emails from some residents that lived right next to the park wondering, what are these pink flags doing out in the parks? But the surveyor was marking the boundaries with the flags. Then our staff's going back in with signs to mark the boundary. And we're not trying to encroach on anybody who may have a garden in their backyard that's 2 inches on county property. We're not there looking for any of those concerns. We're just marking what the park boundary is, so people know, oh, this is part of my yard, this is the park, these tree, you know, this dead tree is in the park. We know it's dead, we need to remove it, or if a homeowner has a problem, they know what is theirs. And it's just good to have a, you know, definite survey of the area. You can go to the next slide. And here are just some pictures of the park benches. We got some green benches, and the next one, a brown bench. This is the natural play area, the stumps. And I know back when they were first in there several months ago, kids were, you know, jumping in between them, and we can continue to make, you know, larger play area, you know, make some more play areas. And next slide. And this just shows you the trail, how it's cleared nice and wide, so people can walk, you know, 2 by 2 and then pass another group, you know, without having to get into the weeds or the brush. And then you probably can't read this very well, but this is a copy of the survey that we did for the park boundaries, and it's public record if anybody wants to see the survey. And that's just, you know, a basic survey. And before I go on to the next, for the COVID-19 updates, just if you guys had any reactions or any questions on Charlotte Humphreys Park.
Amy, I just want to thank you because you all really stepped up to the plate with the survey.
Thank you.
And it was really great because we were struggling with how to get that survey done. And so I just thank you very much for staff for doing that. And to have it flagged for at least a while is very helpful. Just for folks that might be new to the committee, we were having a lot of trouble with trees falling, and people didn't know whether they were their trees or the park trees. And so this will help to add some clarity for everything. I know Kim had been very instrumental. You might want to say something, Kim, about the survey, and just, but don't forget to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, that was one of the topics that came up early on when we brainstormed about what we envisioned taking on with the park, and it became apparent that, you know, over the years there had been a lot of trees that had fallen down, and the county's been very proactive about working with property owners to clean up any trees that may have damaged a structure. But I felt fairly confident that we could figure out like where this boundary was and be good stewards of the park land and the surrounding private properties. And so I'm really thankful that the county did put this resource in and make that available to the public. I did have a follow-up question though about the entrances. Are there details on the map that show the one entrance directly going from Greenbrier onto Whitewood? Was that identified then as county property, or was that private land between the Greenbrier Office Park and the homeowners? Or was that identified as county property?
I'll have to take a closer look at that. I might not be able to see on the copy that I have here, but I can get back to you on that for sure.
Okay.
Amy, I also wanted to just say, we spend so much time in that park with little kids, and we love the benches. And actually the clearing on both sides has been really helpful with social distancing, that you actually feel comfortable passing each other. People can both step off, or runners can step off the side. And I don't know if you had that in mind, but it's made it kind of more carefree to be there.
Oh, good. Excellent. That's great feedback.
So does, Amy, do we have a sense, or maybe Rosemary, who's been probably in the park a good deal, how much the park's being used right now? I think people are really seeking places to walk, and I was just curious as to.
Yeah, I mean, every time we're there, we see at least maybe 4 or 5 other families, even if we go during a really slow time. But I've never been and feeling like it's overcrowded at all. You know, you always pass people, but it doesn't feel like it's inundated. And I see a lot of the same families, walkable families.
And just one other question, and I know sorry for all the questions, but we're really having trouble at some of our other parks with litter. And I was just wondering what the litter situation is, if it's people are taking good care of taking out their own, or what the situation is.
Asking me?
Well, or you, what your experience has been, and then maybe Amy as to what she's seen from Parks and Rec.
Well, my son got a grabber and he picked up a lot of trash. He's very proud. We don't see a ton of trash. He picked up a lot of trash in the little creek area that's kind of off the path. But we don't see a ton. We pick it up. It's maybe like a candy bar wrapper once every couple weeks. But I think it's pretty good for the most part.
That's the great thing. And, we had a lot of discussion before, we got to this point. But to me, I think the thing and it was really kind of questionable that, should we make it accessible to more people? And, every time we kind of brought that up, we ended up coming back to, no, this is a community green space. It's walkable. So people that live here can use it, because we didn't want to end up with crowds of people there. So it's amazing to see, it coming true.
Well, I think that the litter stays down also because there's not really like a big picnic area. People go to it as a walking destination, then they keep moving. So, and I think people really recognize, it feels like wilderness. So I think people are pretty respectful of the litter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now are we going to talk about COVID?
We are. Did somebody else have their hand up?
I did. I had one other, my son and I also walk there a lot, and I walk there a lot. And I pick up litter if I see it. And he and I were out, and for some reason, something caught our attention in the wooded area, and we ended up coming upon a backpack with like a cell phone and an iPad.
Whoa.
So it prompted us to actually call the police. And so, but we waited, and my son thought it was really fascinating, and we waited, and the police drove down, and the police took everything away. And it was like somebody had decided to stash their iPad and a whole bunch of other electronics in the woods. So, but the police were very responsive, and they came and cleaned it up. And so that was one experience we had. And then I was walking, I don't know, a week or so ago, and there was a young man who passed me, and he was not wearing any like headphones. So he was actually like engaged with the environment. So I decided to just chat with him and asked him if he had come to this little park regularly. And he said, well, he works over in the Satcham Village area. And I said, so just out of curiosity, do you ever like see things going on here? Do you like see it changing? Do you see like, you know, much work going on? He's like, no, it looks like it's changing. He's like, but in our company, like they have an email listserv in his company. He's like, but there was an email chain in our company email that they were going to take away some of this land for development. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. So anyway, there are rumors that seem to float around. So like there's all this activity, and now like people are putting out messages in their work chat forums. So, but I assured him that there was no land that was being sold and development happening. So.
And that does bring up an interesting question, and maybe this is for Amy. I know we have ambassadors now that are scattering out into a lot of the parks. And give me a sense of, has there been a need for an ambassador in this particular park, or is it just kind of holding its own okay?
Sure, I think the level of traffic is holding its own. I don't see a need, and I haven't heard of, you know, people not social distancing, but if that gets reported, we definitely would send somebody over there for sure.
And the ambassadors, just so everybody knows, are just to educate people and try and remind them of what our ordinance is on masking and social distancing. And
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
And just to chime back in on Kim's response, thank you, Kim, for letting people know that, you know, no one's buying up the land. We got a couple emails too when we were doing the surveying, people wondering, you know, what's happening over here. So I think just seeing a surveyor out there, you know, that raises the red flag.
Oh yeah.
Is a mask required in the park?
It is not required. The only time a mask is required outdoors is if you can't maintain 6 feet of distance from somebody else.
So the ambassadors are just reminding people, Bill, if they are not social distancing, that they need to be wearing masks outside. Yeah.
Well, this is a great segue to the next part of the.
You set it up.
Yep. And basically, from the start of COVID, we've been fortunate enough to keep all of our parks, trails, and boat launches open. And one of the reasons we were able to keep them open from the beginning was April 4th, we started a Park Ambassadors program. At 7 of our high traffic parks, we would have 2 to 3 ambassadors there every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 6. And as Diantha mentioned, their role was to educate folks. So that we would have one ambassador at the beginning of a park as people were driving in, and then we'd have another one in the parking area or a populated area of the park. And they would let folks know to remember to social distance, wash your hands, don't enter the park if, you know, you have any of the, you know, symptoms of feeling ill, to wear a mask if you can't social distance, and those types of things. And I can tell you, it's been a great success. We've gotten so many compliments from the public that were happy that we were able to keep the parks open. They were happy there were people out there reminding folks what to do, because some people, they just felt better that everybody was everyone was getting their reminder. And then if people weren't social distancing, you know, the last resort, if they didn't listen to us, we would call the police. And we had to do that several times, not many. And the police were great on responding and, you know, helping with the situation. And basically, it really was all just an education process. And the park ambassadors, you know, I don't know how we chose the people we did, but they were just great stewards of the parks and the community. And it's been a success. And we're continuing with the ambassadors at least through Labor Day, and maybe further, just depending on how things go this fall. But that's been a big success. And just some of the other things that since the beginning that in phase 2, we opened up outdoor tennis courts and basketball courts and volleyball courts, picnic shelters, not for reservation, but just for first come, first serve, you know, for families, and restrooms. And then folks still need to follow all the CDC guidelines. Right now we're at 50 people or less for a gathering, and everybody needs to social distance. And then the next thing that we're in the process of working on is return to play plans for sports leagues, just for local recreational leagues, to start some sports. And there's a whole checklist of guidelines they need to follow and best practices. And we're in the midst of that. And community centers, we haven't been able to open those yet. At some point, we're going to open those for 25 people or less for reservations for parties and birthday party showers, those kinds of things. But right now, that's on the back burner. That has not opened up. We're only utilizing our community centers for food pantries and food banks, COVID testing, Wi-Fi in the parking lots. We have Wi-Fi at Yancey School Community Center, where people reserve a room for a chunk of time, and just that family or, you know, that person comes in and uses the Wi-Fi. So we're really trying to, you know, help the community where there's need for the centers. And then hopefully later we'll get to the point where we can open back up with some recreational programming indoors and letting people reserve the spaces for parties, but we're just not at that point yet. Does anyone have any questions with what's open, what's not open as far as parks and recreation?
Amy, I'll just add that that the county has been really passing out masks, face coverings for folks that don't have it or need some. And I'm just to speak to that a minute, I don't know if anyone at our CAC knows of a neighborhood or a group that might really need face masks, but they could certainly contact the county, I think. Is that correct?
That's correct. Siri's department they've been doing it at least 3 times a month, handing out masks, and she's been coordinating that. And then our park ambassadors also have a stockpile of masks if anybody comes in the park saying that they need a mask. So definitely you can call me and I can get you in touch with the right people for face masks for sure.
Right.
I can help too if it comes to mind later for you all, so feel free to email.
I did have a question that comes up with the way Parks and Rec manages some of the sports programs for the county school systems. Are you also working on trying to figure out how that might look?
As far as like the middle school sports, like the after school program?
Yeah.
We will not be running our traditional after school program. At this point, the schools are not allowing us to come in at any time for indoor recreation. That may change after the first 9 weeks, but at least for the first 9 weeks, we won't be doing any indoor basketball or any sports.
It's great hearing about all the parks. I'm curious about the soon-to-be parks like Biscuit Run. Is there a status or an idea of timelines that you can share with us?
Right now with Biscuit Run, we're in negotiations with VDOT. We were under the impression that we had a design that was going to pass VDOT standards, and we are now finding out that it's not going to pass, so we are reworking the entrance. It's going to be at Avon and Route 20. And the way Avon hooks into Route 20, the design that our architect came up with is not one that's going to pass, so we're reworking that. So I don't really have a timeline when all that is going to get approved, but I can say that we are working on some trail development inside the park. So when the parking lot and the entrance get built, the trail system, I mean, there's a lot of trails already out there that the community has put in for years, but we're trying to take what's out there and add a few sections to have things loop and close off, any trail that, wasn't well developed and keep the ones that were developed. So we are working behind the scenes. But I know that doesn't give you the timeline. I just don't have it.
No, that helps. Thank you.
I do want to commend you all for being able to keep those outdoor courts open, through that ambassador program. I have to contrast that with UVA. The place I go running is around what they call the park, those 6 athletic fields behind the JAG school. And those fields they've been locked down all summer. I think they're still locked down. And for a while they had the path around the outside locked down too. And I had to start doing my running in the Stonefield parking lot. But now the running path is open, but as far as I know, the fields are still closed off. And of course, we're going to have students returning pretty soon.
Right. Well, thank you. We feel very fortunate and proud that we've been able to keep the parks and the trails open because people definitely need outlets to recreate safely.
Could you fix the weather so that the weather is more supportive? Is that too much to ask?
I wish I could.
But in all honesty, keeping those trails and parks open and being able to do what we've done really has been dependent on how well our residents followed the rules and worked with us and really done what they were supposed to do. I'm really proud of Albemarle County citizens.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, thank you very much, Amy. That was great. You have been a great friend of the CAC. Do we want to have a conversation, Kim? Do you want to kind of mention, first of all, I have to just tell you, all of the people that have children and jobs and are juggling all that in this environment with the COVID virus is just like, I don't know how you do it. And I know a lot of people are really struggling. But I know there's, as kids are going back, there's a lot of issues, and Kim brought one. So I'll let you have the floor for.
Well, it stemmed from a parent meeting that was held by the principal at Jack Jewett as she was addressing what reopening was going to look like. And the question that I had was, would the school grounds be available for kids to come and do something. I mean, they've got basketball hoops outside. They've got tennis courts. And the principal said right now there will be no activity on the school grounds. So there will be no children playing outside. And I felt really sad by that. So I don't know how we have trails open, but we can't figure out a way to have school grounds be available. So it's just a comment. And Diantha, I know you served on the school board, and is there some way that this can get communicated, or is there other plans to figure out how we can have those resources available?
I have a question clarification. At the beginning, like in March at Jack Jewett, the tennis courts and basketball courts were like roped off with signs zip tied, and those signs are all gone. Like the tennis courts are now unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So is it just that they're not encouraging students or not having activities there, or that the principal was saying that they'll be off limits?
The principal just stated that right now what she's being told is that the grounds are not available to kids.
Which school is that? Is that Jewett?
That was Jack Jewett.
That's interesting because the school, we're in close contact with the schools, and they become community parks after school hours. So when we opened our tennis courts and outdoor facilities, they opened theirs, and we actually helped sign them and helped, because they didn't, they sent their staff, their staff was at home during that time. So if it isn't part of the school day, the outdoor facilities would be open for free play basketball or tennis or anything like that. And then when they go back to virtual school, the community wouldn't be allowed on school grounds if their kids, in the school. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but after school hours, in the evenings and weekends during the school year, they could still be on the fields at the elementary and middle schools, because Parks and Rec takes care of reserving those for organized sports. But then when nothing's on the fields, people can go free play, kick a soccer ball. So I'm not sure if the principal, I think, did Catherine Baylor retire and there's a new principal there? Yeah. She may not be aware of that relationship, and she may be just kind of tunnel vision thinking about the school day, and we're not having, I don't know. We're not having activities.
So how do we have that conversation? How do we help her know, or how do you guys get that kind of information to each other?
What I'll do is I'll reach out to somebody in the school system and have them have a conversation, because since she is new, she may not know any of that. I can take care of that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Rosalind Smith, and yep. But as far as organized events,
right.
Yeah, they wouldn't be any organized.
Cool. That's oh, look at the kitty.
So one of the things that we could do, but I think we're not going to have another meeting for another month, right? But I was going to say we could ask someone from the schools or our Kate Acuff, our school board representative, to join us for a meeting. That's always an option. But I would think, Kim, you'd want an answer quicker than a month. So,
but it's probably not a bad idea that we do, go ahead and plan on, just because, I'm sure that a month from now, there will be, the school situation will be different, whether it's better or worse or the same, so I'll make a note of that we should get somebody from the school board.
Kate would be the right person to invite, and I have told her she has an open invitation to all these meetings, but I'm not sure she's actually on the mailing list. She knows that when we're meeting on Mondays, but I'm not sure she gets the packets. It might be good to just automatically send Kate an invite as our school board representative.
Reach out to her.
Yeah, that might just add her to the list. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any more questions for Amy or for schools or parks? Because the last thing we were going to do this evening is we were going to ask Michaela, who lives in the center of all things county, and she knows everything, all the secrets. She was going to give us a little development update on what all's been going on of interest.
Cynthia was very kind, but there is a lot to know about the county, so I will say that you all might have questions that I'll have to get back to you on. But with a couple of the other CACs, we've been trying our hand at doing a quick development update during each meeting. So share some feedback with me at the end of the meeting or afterwards if you like this kind of information on a frequent basis. So last month we had a joint Places29 CAC meeting. So for the new folks, there's Rio, Hydraulic, and North, and they make up different pieces of the 29 corridor. And we provided a really high level update on development across the corridor, but there are a couple larger projects in our area that I'll walk through now. But if you would like me to cover something next month, I can do that. And each of these projects has its own nuance. There's a lead reviewer assigned to it. So if you give me a little bit of a heads up, then that allows me to connect with them and make sure I have the most detailed information. And for some of the new folks, this is, I'll just briefly talk about development in the county as an overview. And this is a really simplified graphic of our development review process. The big things to take away from it are that if someone is applying to use a property that is not listed as an allowed use in their zoning district, or it's listed as a special use, they have to go through a process called legislative review, which means the Board of Supervisors needs to vote to approve a use for them to be able to do it. So you'll hear about rezonings or special use permits, and that's the process they're going through before their site plan is even reviewed by staff. If something is allowed, what we say colloquially as by right, that means it's allowed by law. So staff can just review administratively to make sure that their application is consistent with all the local and state regulations. It's quite a breadth of regulations, from water protection ordinances to engineering. There's an architectural review board that reviews applications for certain parts of the county. So that's a rigorous process. And once that is complete, then an applicant needs to go through a building permit, and it can't be occupied until they get a certificate of occupancy. So it's a really lengthy process, and there are many steps for different reviewers to jump in. And so I'll clarify kind of where these different projects are at in that process. This next slide here is really meant to say it's complicated. You're not supposed to be able to read that now, but that's the more in-depth version. And as I was mentioning, zoning is one way that the county classifies different properties, and you all are probably familiar with zoning because most cities and counties have zoning, and it's a way to group land into different areas. And the premise that it's created under is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of residents. So that determines what kind of uses happen on a property. And as I mentioned, that's by right. So that means by law, someone can develop their property as long as it's consistent with the regulations that are set forth in the county and in the state. They can do that by law. We also have another way of looking at properties, which is a future land use. So the county has a comprehensive plan that sets out a future vision for the county at large. And in some cases, what the long-range plan says for a property may not align with its current allowed zoning district. And so in cases where that happens, typically an applicant applies to have their property rezoned. And this future land use category is something that the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors look at as a factor. I wanted to provide this context. I know it's a lot, but before we talk about some projects, since we have some new faces in the virtual room right now. Stonefield is a big project in the area, and we've seen it come at different times. And I wanted to just quickly share that the original rezoning for this project happened back in 2003. And the vision for the development has really changed over time. The original vision was for a very vertically mixed use development, and it remained unbuilt for a number of years. And what we've all seen built out has been more single use and shorter buildings due to economic factors. So in 2014, updates were approved and a new application plan. But despite that, for the past 2 years, we've seen developers come in submitting some plans that are more consistent with that vertical mixed use development. So we're starting to see some new kinds of development for Stonefield that I'll talk through here. And I'll refer to blocks, which are really just the whole development at large is broken up into blocks. And it's how the reviewers at the county and the applicant refers to different areas. And D1, you all will probably recognize once you see the next kind of image. It's currently the parking lot between Hydraulic Road and the Hyatt. And there's a final site plan that's under review for a 220 unit apartment building with commercial and retail space as a part of it. And the building will have an internal structured parking garage. This came to the CAC last year. I want to say in the fall, but my memory is a little vague on it. And this is an illustrative site plan showing the top of, looking down an aerial perspective of how the development will be built out.
Just Michaela takes a pause there. I just want to let folks know that the original plan for Stonefield, if you think about the main street where all those stores are, those stores were planned to have residential living above them. That was the original plan. And when the economics and the recession hit, and as they were working through the Stonefield build out, those residential units were taken away. But that's what Michaela was referencing when she was talking about the original plans. It would have been more like if you think about downtown Charlottesville, where you have stores on the mall and then residences above. That it was what Stonefield was originally planned to look like. We're making up for that, and we're getting back to that vision now. Thank you, Michaela.
Thanks for clarifying that too. Stop me if the planning crazy jargon kicks in and I'm not being clear.
Julian's better at that than
I. So that is one section of Stonefield where in the future, it's sort of hard for me to predict timelines since it's only up to the county to a certain extent through the development review process. But this is something in the pipeline that you'll see. Block D2 is along Inglewood, sort of catty corner from the parking lot we were just talking about. And it has mostly been built out in the first phase with 49 townhomes. And the second phase is currently under construction with a 160 unit apartment building, again, with office space. And I see Kim has raised her hand. Go ahead, Kim.
The developer of that parcel, when they came to our CAC to talk about that design, he had addressed the property boundary for those townhouses that are up on Commonwealth. Have they been a good developer to work with for those property owners? And did they end up actually shoring up that steep hillside that they pledged they were going to help do?
They'll definitely have to meet the standards for.
Michaela, I think I can answer that question.
Oh, sure.
I talked to the developer, or he had some reason to be in an email conversation with him not too long ago. And he said he was able to reach out to almost all of those owners along Commonwealth. And I think that has worked out satisfactorily. And I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my understanding.
And it does look like they did end up having the sewer connecting to that the the shopping center, Greenfield, they had also allowed that property owner to connect to the sewer in Stonefield.
Yeah.
And I think that was a nice offer on the developer's part.
They were having trouble, and you're right, they were having trouble at first because he wanted to do some things that would have been really or are better for those townhouses along Commonwealth. And he was having trouble getting their attention because many of them have that are not local. But he indicated to me that they managed to reach out and found almost all of them, I think was what he said. So he was feeling very positive.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I think I see Bill's hand is up too.
Yeah, I just had a question on the development across from the Hyatt. So where does that leave the hotel as far as parking? Do they still have sufficient spaces, or do they get some spaces in their garage, or what?
I'm not sure about their shared parking agreement. I don't know if they have one, and I can follow up on that, but there is sufficient parking happening in this structure. It's actually the apartments and the commercial retail space is built around the parking. So the center space that says proposed building is where the parking will be. But I can follow up on how the Hyatt's parking relates to that. But we do have parking standards at the county where each of these sections would have to meet that. So it's, my understanding is it's becoming structured in its form as opposed to surface.
My understanding was that all of their the Hyatt has that huge parking lot behind. And when we had these discussions, they weren't worried about parking. They said plenty of parking.
It's not an issue for them.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for jumping in. Cynthia thought I had all the answers, and look at, we're collectively doing it. This is a rendering of that D2, how it would look, set back kind of further from the street here. But I think these illustrative renderings are more helpful sometimes than the site plans. And then during our last, really quick, here is, you might have already seen this along, across from the Costco parking lot, connecting to Blackbird Lane, there's a new bank, CNF Bank, that's been built right next to the existing Qdoba. So we've got some new recent construction as well. And then in our last joint meeting in July, we had a question about the Georgetown hydraulic office building, and the final site plan for this was submitted late last week. So a lot of this is still under review, and I've been working with the lead reviewer on this, and we'd like to provide a more in-depth update when we have more certainty from the reviewers that are going to be looking at this final site plan. But I do want to provide at least a brief update now that this is the location for the property that we're talking about. It's at the corner of Hydraulic and Georgetown. And this is an example of a project that I was describing before that's by right, meaning they already have zoning that allows the use that they're applying for. And it's a two-story structure kind of viewed from the street, but because of the topography on the site, it will be 3 stories on the back, so terraced based on the topography. And the area at the back will be conserved for wooded green space. Some aspects that you all probably would be interested in hearing about is that the applicant, one of the main things that remains to be worked out is where the entrance will be located for cars. Every property has to be allowed at least one entrance, but the Virginia Department of Transportation wants to ensure that it's not too close to the Georgetown hydraulic intersection. So right now they're envisioning a right in, right out entrance without allowing left turns, but that's still being worked out with VDOT. And this project, because of its location within what we call the entrance corridor district, requires the architectural review board to approve it. So there are a couple different things still in the works, and we hope to come back to this group with more details about what you can expect from construction and development. Hopefully next month, I think, should be appropriate. And as a quick reminder, the county has a new website, so things are in different places. And there's a tool that you can find a lot of this information if you're curious and have some time. If you click on the How Do I tab at the top, there's in this view section where I have the red line, there's something called a development dashboard. And it's a tool where you can flip through all of those phases that I was talking about the development review process, and sort it by your CAC area, by magisterial district, by school district. There's a couple different buckets that you can check, and that'll show you all of the applications that are going through that legislative review process, requiring board approval, everything that's being reviewed under by staff. So if you see something and you have questions about it, you can let me know and I can answer over email, or we could bring it out to the larger group if it's a project that warrants a larger discussion. And then really quick, some folks on this committee, I think, live close to this area, Rio 29, around the Rio Road and Route 29 intersection. There are a couple planning projects that are happening in the area. Many of you are familiar with the form-based code project. Albemarle County has been working on developing its first form-based code, which is a type of zoning that prioritizes what buildings look like and how they meet streets rather than what's happening inside of them. And this was a recommendation that came out of a small area plan for the area. And right now, I'm working on this project, so I feel very comfortable answering any questions about it. We have hired a consultant team with Form-Based Code Institute, who is providing what we're calling peer review services. They have a team of about 9 people from diverse backgrounds, developers, architects, public officials, who are reviewing our draft to ensure it meets the project's goals. And they know this is our first form-based code for the county, and they're really the experts that can tell us where we can make adjustments. We'll also be taking 3 sites within the area and developing scenarios to see how the code works. For 2 reasons: it'll tell us what's wrong with the draft that we have when we try to use it, tell us what's working, as well as provide some really, I think will be really nice renderings and visuals for us to share with you all and decision makers. So this fall we'll have some engagement opportunities to review the draft and also work with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors towards our goal to adopt it in early 2021. The second thing that is happening in that area is the Rio Road Corridor Plan, which is just getting started. And the goal of that project is to conduct an evaluation of Rio Road as a whole and develop comprehensive design alternatives, identify some urban design characteristics that can serve as a guide for future development and infrastructure rehab projects in the future. This corridor plan will provide solutions that will help enhance mobility and access for all road users, and develop traffic safety and operational improvements. So that is just getting started. Staff is working through finalizing the procurement and purchasing process, but I can keep you all updated. And that I didn't intend to speak so long, so that took longer. If you have any questions, feel free.
My only question is something I saw in the news, was the Boys and Girls Club. I understand it's being moved from the lot, and it's now hopefully going to be put where the driver's ed section is. Is that correct?
And I can speak to that because I just had a conversation with James Pierce, the director of the Boys and Girls Club, today. And in fact, the school board did, because that's a decision by the school board, not Board of Supervisors, but the school board did vote to move the Boys and Girls Club from the location behind Jack Jewett to the driving course. So that is where the Boys and Girls Club will now be located, which is a better location for the Boys and Girls Club. There's no doubt about that. The driver's course at Albemarle High School was of the 3 comprehensive high schools, was the only driving course that was available. And all the studies showed that the children that used that course did no better than the other 2 schools, students in the other 2 schools that use cones in the parking lot for their driving. So the Boys and Girls Club has a new location. And I have reached out to Kevin McDermott because why that's important for this group. You all sponsored and went to bat for the sidewalk that's going in to connect Albemarle High School with the other schools, that new sidewalk. And we need to make sure now that staff and the schools, everybody connects, because we're going to may very well need another updated design, because this does change the character of that area to some degree. But the Boys and Girls Club is thrilled because moving it to this location means they're saving $2 to $3 million, not having to deal with the steep slopes and some of the challenges that they had behind Jack Jewett. Plus, we're saving trees, which is really.
As a community member of the trail system back there, we're thrilled as well.
Yes, it's really nice. It's a much better location for the school.
Much better. Much better.
Yeah. And it's just great to have it in the center of that campus. It will really be wonderful. So.
I see Tori has her hand up too. So I unmuted you, Tori, if you still want to speak. I'm not sure when you started raising your hand.
Oh, I was just you already answered the question. It was about the parking, and the Hyatt parking is behind it's over by the apartments, and it's not in front.
Thank you.
Sure.
So everybody probably already has it on their calendar. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, September 21st at 5:30. I'm sure it will be virtual as well, unless, some miracle occurs between now and then.
Cynthia, could we ask Tori to give us an update on Stonefield, given everything that's going on? Do we have time
for a drive from Michigan?
I know. Well, I would just, Tori, can you do that? Do you mind, or you?
Hey, yeah, I don't have much to, are you there?
We're here.
Okay, good. It may be better next time, but yeah, you talked about the CNF Bank, and that's opening, I think, this week for business. So we're excited to have them there. And we have an Edward Jones that just opened kind of office behind Orvis, which is nice. We have lost a couple tenants, but we have a couple more that are coming in that I can't say. So we're holding our own for the moment. Though obviously COVID's been tough. And I don't know if you've heard, but Regal is opening on the 21st. So we've opened the parking garage back this week, and we're excited to have, Regal's, they're going to have 50 people per theater. And to start, I think it's $5 movies at Regal, which should help with some foot traffic at the center. So. And, people have been super respectful, super safe, lots of outdoor dining. You've probably seen Champion Grill is on the green, and I think they're going to be adding a tent. We've added other tables and chairs outside for people to sit. And I was laughing because I think all that Charlotte Humphreys trash just gets put in our trash cans, so there's no problem. We have people there to get it all the time.
That's great. Thank you for Tori. I appreciate it. I was just wondering how you guys were doing.
Sure.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So let me just say that my dog is going to now bark. Opportunities for the public access to participate in the electronic meeting will be posted at a later date in accordance with Emergency Ordinance number 20-A6 and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. That, if anybody wants to interpret what that really meant or what we did, but we are kosher and legal. Is there any, there's deer in my yard. Is there any questions or comments before we close? Well, it was great seeing everybody.
Great meeting. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for joining us. Bye-bye.